about we just get to it? I don't know what I'm gonna do with my next recording thing, because I have, besides streaming, I have another thing that I do a lot, and I don't know what to put into it. I have games, but I have no joie de vivre needed to do anything. I don't having issues writing everything, just kind of congested, you know. Just feels like all I hear about me is bad news and people being annoyed with things, you know. It's like, you know what I need? You know what I need? I need that Gordon Ramsay finally some good fucking news. That's what I need. Alright, here we go. The next day was slow going. Randy had dropped off some books for me to read in the morning, which I was deeply grateful for. He also informed me that Damien was sick. Apparently all the stress had caught up to him and he was down hard yesterday. I appreciated the status update. It made me feel better about Damien's curt replies. If anything, it made me very appreciative that he responded at all. I ran through what I had done and formulated last night as a plan of attack. Randy seemed to agree with me for the most part. He told me that he would get in contact with Ferris and Scalar for me, since as far as we both knew, my parents hadn't talked to him about what to do for school while I was outside of the original notice I had been in coma. What? He also felt that my idea for Vinny was good, although he laid down the law that it would wait until I had a clean bill of health. I was feeling stronger every day, but that didn't mean that I got to push myself with physical activity like hockey. Sport known for injuries. Yeah, that's why he likes it. Vinny likes it because it is a sport known for its fights and injuries. That's like half the reason he's going off on that. Is that, listen, I thought going off is like you're cheering and hollering, you know, you're having a good time, but now my brain is like, does it mean something else and I just said something stupid? I was all too happy to agree. While I felt that it was the best way to lift Vinny's spirits, I honestly wasn't looking forward to the Dino Sons bodying me in a sport. Charlie may have put a bit of muscle on me, but it certainly wouldn't be enough to actually keep up with them. I didn't need to die the second I got out of hospital in a freak street hockey accident. I mean, Damien probably has the restraint. I don't think Vinny would. When I told him about my message to Olivia, he could only offer me some basic encouragement that he thought I was doing the right thing. She still hadn't responded, but neither of us were surprised by that, really. Randy said that he got back home to see if Sophia noticed the difference at all, but until then we were both in a holding pattern to see if my message moved Olivia's needle at all. Or moved the Olivia needle. He bid me farewell. Listen, when I correct things, it's because I'm trying to keep the flow going. And I'm sorry, sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, you know? Because reading and writing are different things, you know? As is saying things out loud. Your brain doesn't quite work the same way when you're thinking, when you're talking, I like to imagine. He bid me farewell. It's so dramatic. As he actually had to get back to work today, but he'd promised he'd swing by again in the afternoon afterwards. I was more than content with that. For the next little while, I amused myself with the drawing app that I installed on my phone. It was a little more robust than doodling in the Notepad app, but my skill level made it minuscule. Yeah, like, the tools don't matter, buddy. You can use MS Paint to make some good stuff if you know what you're doing. But if I got any better, maybe it'd be more useful. I mean, you gotta learn how to layer, man. You gotta have too many layers. If people aren't on Tumblr and aren't complaining about the amount of layers you have, you're not doing it right, my man. You're underselling it. If I ever got back on speaking terms with Olivia, I'd have to ask what app she uses on her phone. I spent the late morning and early afternoon juggling between getting up and pacing around my room, watching huge Snoot video tutorials on drawing and trying my hand at it. I was beginning to get antsy, and this was the best combination I had available to prevent boredom-induced madness from settling in. Randy's books sounded interesting, but were more in-depth than light reading, and I couldn't get my brain to sit still long enough to get invested in them. Maybe later, but I don't think it was going to happen today. One part I was feeling particularly antsy about was Mr. Ferris and Scalar. Randy said that he would contact them, so there was a non-zero chance I would hear about them today, but where that conversation would go was a complete unknown to me. I was angry at both of them for their failures, but I was also sympathetic to them because of mine. So, like in the morning, all I could do was occupy myself through the routine of my healing and waiting to see how things went. A late afternoon, however, brought an unexpected surprise. Wasn't yet settled, and if it was a welcome one.
Inco, your family's here to visit.
I almost jumped out of my bed in shock at the announcement. At this point, I began to suspect that they had died on a flight somewhere and that ghostly forms would slide through the walls to greet me. Instead, the door opened full span, and there they were, old Mommy and Daddy. Dad shared my boldness. Thanks again for that one, Pops. Some hair could have softened the blow of my landing in that stairwell. Mom, of course, had a shortcut bob, dark brown. Both looked tired as usual. They were in their mid-30s, and they looked like they hadn't Inco! You're 18! 19! Did your parents have you, like, right out of high school? Because... Hold on. Listen, Inco, I'm perfectly willing to... Okay, listen. I can understand the American high school sweetheart. You have a baby at prom, and you're stuck with it. Your parents are architects, and Inco, they went to college at the minimum. They did not have you. They are in their 40s, minimum. If they want to get this job, they are not raising a fucking baby. Inco, I don't believe this. Your parents are in their 50s or 40s. They cannot get a job like this, have this amount of money, have this laid out, if they have to take care of a fucking baby. Especially you, Inco. I mean, I guess with an iPad baby, it's a hell of a lot easier, but you know what I mean, right? Inco is not that maladjusted. Like, his parents gave a shit. And they're both working. Otherwise, his mom would be home more, and she isn't. So, like, who the fuck raised the baby? Were they just rich? Are your grandparents rich? Because if your grandparents are rich, you know what, Inco? I believe it if your grandparents are rich. Otherwise, off the table. They are not in their mid-30s. I could believe it for Randy, but Randy looks like he's in his 50s or 40s, you know? He looks old. He looks like he's been through shit. Maybe he aged because of his kids. I heard that happens, too. Both looked out as usual. They're mid-30s, and they look like they hadn't slept since high school. Yeah, that's because they had you after high school, Inco! If you're 18, and they're in their mid-30s, they had you out of high school! You kept them up with a baby, you baby! Very good. That softball is opening. I slurred back. I waved both of them in. Them standing in the doorway wasn't just making me uncomfortable, but the poorness as well. Took a few steps into the room, and the nurse closed the door behind them to give us some privacy. They didn't advance any closer. Call them standoffish was the most accurate descriptor in history. We got back this morning from our trip, the Nettleman project. You know the one. Dad explained. I didn't, of course. I had no idea what projects they had, or which ones were in the work, or how far along they were. They rarely actually told me what was going on at work. And they were usually at work. Normally, that just made me feel lonely and sad, but at the moment, it was slowly raising my blood pressure. It was the only thing I could offer. I hadn't decided if they were yet pulling my phone. Oh, I don't know what. Sorry, I got a little confused. I forgot. He doesn't have a notepad, even though again, it's the perfect fucking metaphorical, allegorical prop for the situation. You blew it. You blew your load. You bingus. This connection could have happened later on. Listen, I'm not talking about that, right? Like, I got the impression that his mother and his father are, like, in a similar stage in their career. And I can't imagine that mom spent, like, 6 years raising him and then slid in like that. Although, actually, that's fine. 12 years is a long time to build a career, especially if you have your hubby to, you know, shore up things. Or maybe the husband stayed at home. I don't know. Maybe it was like, if I give him a bald head, the least I can do is raise him. Inco, I might have given you a bald head, but at least I was there for you in those hard days. Rub your son's head for good luck. Oh. I hadn't yet decided if they were worth pulling out my phone. I don't know. I feel like the sentence needs some brushing up. It needs to be either more concise, like focus on I haven't decided if they were worth pulling my phone out for, because the communicating with makes it a little long, and it's like we know what he means with this, right? Or you can say the notepad. This is why you keep the notepad, so you have an easy... Bam! My head explodes. Come on, man! You had an easy in! And you blew it. I'm unreasonably upset about a minor detail, but I feel that this kind of stuff, you know, pulls things together. It's the suing. We're sorry, honey, really. We were here first thing in the morning after you were brought here, but when they said you were in a coma and had no signs of waking up, we didn't know what to do. Mom offered. You could have actually kept your asses in the state in case I woke up, for one. Why are you specifying that? And Inco, we are in your mind. You don't have to specify that this is a thought and not a word you say. Unless he's like being sassy to himself, which admittedly, I imagine if his blood pressure's going up. Still, oh wait, we probably need some tenser music for this, considering that it sounds like things are getting a bit. Yeah, this sounds a bit confrontational. Still, we understand if you're upset, kid. Of all the bits of information we know, you've been through a lot. Don't worry, we'll get this sorted out. We'll give those people a few $100 million and they'll stop talking to you. Honestly, this was the most direct engagement I'd gotten in a while. It's actually kind of surreal. If every word they said didn't make me more and more annoyed, it would have been a nice change of pace. But no, they hadn't actually come to me yet. They stopped in the middle of the room and hadn't come closer since. I know I wasn't worth paying Olivia's time of day, but I'm your goddamn son! Okay, you raised me with an iPad in one hand and a nanny in the other. God damn it, I lost so much money to her cheating at cards. My scowl clearly caused... Hey! You're progressing! You're getting better with your facial expression. Poor SLP. Poor speech-language pathologist. My scowl clearly caught their attention. The awkward silence weighed heavy on the room. My parents really, truly had no idea what to say or do next. Considering they're architects... Listen, architects are in the kind of position where they have to schmooze a bunch of rich people. I imagine they have, like, really good schmoozing skills. And maybe some conflict resolution, but they probably don't know what to do with a fucking teenager. Unless they take on those cases, you know? Which I can't imagine. That just sounds like hell. Heck! They didn't hate me. I knew that. Frankly, it'd probably been easier around if they did. No. The problem is they did care. If they move... They know the RNG is such they'll trigger an RPG encounter. They did the math. Dad, why won't you come closer? Son, you don't understand. I have no healing items left and I'm on 2 hit points. If I get any closer, I'll have to fight the nurse. And the nurse is like around the door like, oh, just 2 more steps, old man. I'm getting all the gold. Dad, I thought you had your money in stock options and dollars. I do, son. But you know what they say. If you get into a fight with a stranger on the streets, Yakuza style, you have to deconvert everything into gold. That's not how it works for Kiryu. Why does Kiryu get money? Does he just I mean, I guess he is a Yakuza. He's just used to taking people's wallets when he's done. It's just a habit. It didn't feel like that sometimes, but looking back, especially after Olivia helped take care of me when I was sick, and we talked about our parents' issues, she highlighted that they cared. Otherwise, they wouldn't give me such a nice house, a nice education, and basically a blank chunk of money to amuse myself with. Soylent. No. I like, listen, I mean, I guess he does have a fuck ton of money to throw around. I don't know if I would say a nice education. I guess they accommodated his education, but, like, St. Hammond has not really stricken me as, like, the fancy school, you know. Their budget ain't going to keeping you alive in case of disaster. The nice house kind of makes sense, but I imagine they get a lot of guests over, so they need a nice house, you know, impress. Look, we're so successful, we have a nice house. So I never really took those as to mean anything for Inco specifically. They were coincidental, you know. Potato, potato at the same time. The problem, ultimately, is that they didn't care. Isn't that they didn't care. It's that they were bad parents. Their care meant nothing to the entitled, spoiled little shit I grew up to be. They had me too young. They got married too young. No one's really ready to be a parent, but these two were worse on average. We never talked about it. But I'm pretty sure I'm older than they were when they had me. They had you, like, in high school. Oh, that's even fucking worse. He punches them so hard the wallets fly out directly into Kiryu's pocket. Kiryu, there's a reason you must always wear a double-breasted jacket. Because if you don't, the money might just land on the floor. To their credit, they pulled strings together against all odds, and both went into business together. Why are you saying both went into business together? I don't know, that's just weird. After having me. Although, no, the implication is they are both going into business and they're doing it together. After having me, and work incredibly well-paying jobs. But they're barely more adults than I am, even though they're double my... Inco, you're ending one, Inco. You're a fucking idiot. Don't even try, okay? Don't even fucking try. And it manifests in their care being an almost unlimited money to a kid who had almost no emotional connections to anyone else. And never learned a shred of empathy from another person. Yeah, I stared at my parents, and a deep, recessed rage continued to grow. I was trying to fight it, but in that moment, the sickly sweet smell of an emotional way out was calling me. A siren song calling out to me to bash myself to the rocks. No, you gotta dash yourself against the rocks. Do it biblically. The part of my old self that wanted to act like everyone else that had failed. The part I'd spent almost every waking moment since I exited my coma crushing into dust was working a Hail Mary play. It was their fault. I wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for them. Olivia wouldn't hate me if they raised me better. My knuckles turned wide as my fingers balled into fists so hard that my joints began to hurt. The amount of people that are just replaying the fucking Arthur meme where his fist is clenched is just something else. Curl your toes, Mfunce. If the pains had been my parents, I wouldn't be like I am. My parents just stood there, not sure what to do as my anger began to hit a crescendo. To their credits, in the back of my mind, I could tell they were disturbed. They realized something was wrong, but it came back to the same fundamental problem. They didn't know what to do with me. I inhaled deeply. I lost control of myself in that moment. It didn't matter if they understood a single syllable that came out of my mouth. I was about to unload almost 2 decades of neglected hate at them. They deserved every moment. Then the door to the room slid open. Hey, Inco, I managed to get off work a bit early, so Randy Payne stood on the threshold of the doorway, unsure what he was looking at. Seeing one of the most kind people I'd ever met, his face going from pleased, perplexed, to worried ripped the voice from me. My parents had startled at the door opening suddenly, and pivoted to see a man they didn't realize was their savior. Oh, I'm sorry, son. Didn't know you had company, Randy said, trying to take stock of what he was looking at. My dad! Turned to Randy and back to me. Inco, who's this? My lungs felt tight. Being interrupted like that threw me off, and I needed a cough to clear myself. My deflated anger and brief spike of return. My deflated anger had a brief spike of return, but it petered out again quickly. I wasn't going to try unloading anything on my parents in front of Randy. I used the moment to look at the 3 who were looking back at me, and have what shake of my head the brace could allow. My parents' faces scrunched into a mixture of bewilderment and concern as they looked at me. Randy did the same, only he was looking at a couple between him and me. I love the fact that, like, you have to remember, Randy and Inco, there are very few humans in their life. Randy's probably like, man, I don't talk to humans all that often, and it never goes well. I love it if that's, like, the thing that goes in his head. Man, what a bad time to be a racist. God damn it, I should have listened to Olivia's stupid LGBT spiel. I might have actually been able to say something without immediately resorting to spear chucker. God damn it. Just like the mental image of him just immediately losing everything. Okay. What was that? My mother exclaimed. I let out a sigh. Inco, honey, what's wrong? Is your mouth numb? Is it the medication you're taking? I don't think medication you take causes numbness. I don't know. Taking feels more like oral, you know? Or you stuff it up your butt or put it in your ear. IVs don't feel like medicine you're taking, but I guess it is the proper term. You learn so much reading things, huh? She finally had figured out where her maternal instincts had hidden for the last decade and came over to me, placing her hands all over my face to try and get a better look at me. My dad hadn't moved an inch. He was trying to process what was going on, but he could already tell I wasn't right. Oh man, they're gonna ditch you! Shouldn't the doctors have called your parents, though? It feels kind of important. They showed up. Like, the doctors know they're around. They could have left a voicemail. I don't know. Oh, well, it'll be a fun lawsuit later down the line. I'd already assumed that was the case, because I unfortunately knew my parents quite well. Unfortunately for Randy. A lot of unfortunates going on right now. He only just now pieced together the current situation. You don't know about your son's condition? You don't know about your son's condition? His voice was dripping with mortification. Mortification?! Ooh! Is that where your fucking parents' money went? Learning the word mortification? Great embarrassment and shame. The act of subduing to one's bodily desires. I thought it meant, it means putting to death. Oh, that's great. That's fucking great. All right. His voice was dripping with mortification. He really couldn't believe that they didn't know. Their defense, as much as I felt inclined to provide that information to them, I never actually texted either of them to let them know anything. I admit to being childish, but if they wanted to see how I was doing, I decided they could actually come to see me for it. That's what they did! They're here now, buddy! Clearly, the hospital staff was on hand, was unawares that they were unawares of my condition. Oh, that's just nasty. Oh, they probably imagined that. They probably thought that since Randy was a guardian, he would take care of it for them. Oh, that's great. That's great. Great. Fantastic. Things coming up Millhouse, as they say. Well, enjoy that bombshell, guys. Maybe, just maybe, it will make you consider acting like actual parents next time your son gets put into a coma after almost dying. Well, the notion sounded mildly sadistic. A bitter amusement was running in my brain, and I unfortunately realized too late that it was going to shake out that way today. Randy looked livid. Honestly, listen, I know that it's tempting to write your characters as, like, smart and intelligent, but sometimes people are victims of their emotions, and you gotta write that shit out, and it's great. That's how you get tension and friction and plot points, is sometimes a character just goes, this is the hill I'm gonna die on. One way or the other. In accordance with the character. His cousin walks in with his green jacket and jeans. What the fuck, Inco? I thought you said you were gonna send me some goddamn money. Ugh. Mr. Manny has $10,000 in his fucking checking account, and I'm not allowed to have a single one? Jesus. Hold on. I'm being rude. Okay, so Randy is losing his shit. I imagine that's fair. But again, I feel like Randy might carry some blame. His frills were shivering and his eyes were pinpricks. If I didn't know the man better, I would have suspected he was about to lunge in my pants right there and then. But to his credit, as one of the most wonderful people I've ever met, he restrained himself. Mr. and Mrs. Nero, I'm Randy Payne. I've been acting as your son's guardian while you were unavailable. If you want to come out to me in the hallway, we have a lot to discuss. I think we have a lot to discuss. Oh, wait, let me try something. Mr. and Mrs. Nero, I'm Randy Payne. I've been acting as your son's guardians while you were unavailable. If you come out with me into the hallway, I think we have a lot to discuss. His voice was ice cold. Thanks for chilling my drink, Randy. Even when Olivia was at her worst and lashing out at her family, he'd never been so outwardly angry. Randy, I appreciate you get a bat from me. Whatever you do, don't kill my parents, shit as they are, in a hospital hallway. Randy has entered heat mode! I've been told the flames are real, which implies that Randy is about to start a cookout in the hallway. That can't be legal. Dad took the cue and walked out into the hall, passing Randy without a look, mumbling and for a moment, a head whipping between me and Randy. All I could do was shrug and a, well, go on gesture towards the door. After a moment, she too exited the hall, the door quietly clicking shut. Immediately, I began to breathe heavier. No, Randy didn't want to have to fight in front of a child, but he was a great person like that, but I was legitimately concerned about how this was going to shake out, now that I was out of view. I strained my ears to try and catch everything from the conversation happening outside. At first, it was basically nothing at all, but the telltale sounds of voices and tensions being raised. Wait, hold on. We're doing this again? We're doing this? Oh, we better not do this again, because I had enough of fucking telescope ears and on, okay? At first, it was basically nothing at all, but soon the telltale murmurs of voices and tensions being raised. But soon, the telltale sounds of voices and of tensions being raised. I feel like another of would help clarify this. A moment later, it exploded into full-on shouting. Who needs telescopic ears? They're just yelling. Randy's hands are rated E for everyone. Shit. Oh shit, there's a song recommendation. Flirt with Bomb. Hold on, I want to listen to the song now. Go away. Good soundtrack. Also, we need a new song anyway. You know, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty swank. Let's turn on an actual oh shit song. Yeah, this works. Man, I bullied someone so hard. He has yet to recover. Hold on, let's get back. I didn't want to see my parents hurt, but well beyond that, I didn't want anything to happen to Randy. I jumped out of bed and bolted to the door. Unfortunately, getting stronger didn't translate to fully recovered, and my knees went weird on the home stretch to the door. And I, face planted directly into it. The meaty thud immediately killed the conversation outside, and the door slid open. Unfortunately, painfully dragging the door and me with it. And whoa, it's multiple people. For my part, all I could do was groan, because that really, really hurt. My nose hurt, my black eye hurt, my neck hurt, and what may be a friction burn on my forehead from the door hurt. Even my knee hurt from how I went down. Silver lining of this truly pathetic display, only outshone by my debut at St. Hammond's, was that it unified the three towards my well-being. My mother rolled me over and cradled my head while Dad was trying to look me over. I could already hear Randy running down the hall, yelling for help. Once again, the unifying force to bring people together to overcome any strife was apparently horrible head trauma for Inco Noted.